Podcasting from the Starr Group, home of the iconic dressable lions. This is Beyond the Known, the podcast that takes you a step beyond what you know about business. I'm your host, Paul M. Newberger, and I'm very excited because today we're talking with Mary Starr, Executive Vice President of the Starr Group. How are you, Mary Starr?
I am amazing today, Paul Newberger.
One of the things that I'm very excited about talking to Mary Starr about is something that she is very passionate about. Mary is too humble to admit this, so I will do it for her, but she is a nationwide authority figure when it comes to the world of corporate culture, health, and wellness. Gosh, Mary, I wish we had hours. Unfortunately, we don't, so let's get right to it here. Open-ended question, I get it. Why is culture important?
Well, thank you for that great introduction, Paul. And I feel compelled to start by sharing what I learned from one of my greatest mentors, David Honeycutt. And that is that every organization has a culture, but the majority are there by default. Only a precious few have been built consciously and by design. Today, culture is increasingly recognized as the number one element that matters most when it comes to high-performing organizations. In fact, more CEOs today reference this as their number one concern. And Gallup will tell you it can make the difference between engagement and alienation, success and failure, joy and drudgery, and can actually increase revenue per employee up to 60%.
Pretty impressive stuff. It is tough to put such an emphasis on culture, to really go above and beyond and you know, from the wellness initiatives and everything else. I mean, you are on fire for culture and wellness. Could you just tell us a little bit, where did this fire in the belly come from?
Well, it originated from realizing the power and control we have over our own destiny by simply managing our own well-being. And when I brought that into the Starr Group and I saw the profound effect just by having corporate wellness in an organization, the profound effect that that had on our culture was incredible. And it has been a joy and a fascination over the past 10 years to watch this transformation within our culture at the Starr Group.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Mary's passion is infectious. I mean, you just spend 10 minutes around Mary Starr, and it's just hard not to get excited. It's hard not to start checking your blood pressure or your BPMs. I mean, she just really has a way about her in terms of motivating and inspiring not only other business owners about culture, but obviously the other folks here in the Starr Group. Now, Mary, help me understand this a little bit. I mean, we talk about the word culture a lot. Now, culture is an open-ended word. Culture can be a loaded word. It's one thing to say you have culture, but how specifically do you determine what your organization's culture is?
Well, I can tell you what we did at the Starr Group. And what we started doing initially was to administer confidential surveys. And in order for these surveys to work, there must truly be a sense of trust within the organization. You need to impress that surveys are confidential. You need to explain why you are giving them. And then I recommend sharing the results at the end. In fact, the Starr Group administers 7 surveys throughout the year. And the ones that are specific to culture would include Gallup's Q12 Engagement Survey, WellCOA, the Wellness Council of America's Culture Audit. We administer an Employee Satisfaction Survey and an Ethics Survey. And then lastly, we apply for the Local Best Places to Work Award every year, and they administer a survey as part of that. So we do these various surveys every single year as a means of keeping our finger on the pulse of our culture. We also share the results, and then we have committees who take this feedback and use it specifically to enhance our culture.
Now, we've got a lot of individuals listening to this podcast that are C-suite executives. They're change agents in their organization. I mean, they have the ability to bring about the change they want to see in their corporate culture. And I guess for them, they might be wondering, how do you change a corporate culture?
Well, the number one word is incrementally. It does not change overnight. In fact, when we determined that we were going to begin to build a culture by design, the first thing we did was to clarify what we reference as our foundational building blocks. And that's our vision, our mission, and our values. Because what we found is that employee engagement rises when the team has a greater connection to each one of these. So actually, all employees have a 7-week introduction to values. So they are truly living and breathing at the Starr Group. We also committed as a management team and a leadership team to consistent and transparent communication. That means communicating the good with the bad, because most leaders tend to be guarded with their communication. And in fact, what employees come up with on their own tends to be much worse than what the actual reality is. I would also recommend sharing the results of your labor. We're all in this together. So at the Starr Group, we host 3 mandatory all-agency meetings each year. And in those meetings, we share financial information, our goals, our outcomes, trends, and we also take time to celebrate. And one more thing I would recommend, we improved engagement and strengthened our culture by creating collaborative teams. This is for employees to become key decision makers. By creating collaborative teams, it gives employees a voice and an opportunity to take ownership to change the culture.
Now, for me, I got to tell you, I have been a student when it comes to culture, because it has been a very unique experience for me to be seeing this and witnessing this over the past couple of years. There's actually a lot of ancillary benefits, a lot of profound positive ramifications that happen to an organization that has a very positive culture. So I guess my follow-up question for you, Mary, I've learned a lot in this regard, but for those people that might not be seeing this to the extent that you and I do, how does corporate culture play into things such as talent acquisition, retention, employee engagement, and the like?
Well, actually, again, one word, profoundly. I will tell you that the value we have received on our investment in culture has been beyond my wildest dreams. When we started this initiative over 10 years ago, I had no idea the outcomes that we would realize. Our employee engagement has risen each year to where it is at 100% for the past 4 straight years, which I will tell you is unheard of. Employee satisfaction scores have been above average almost since the day we started this initiative. And the effect on employee recruitment has been incredible. 95% of our applicants tell us that culture is a reason for applying at the Starr Group. So overall, the effect that our initiative and focus on culture has had on talent retention and engagement has been incredible.
Boy, you talk about an easy gig, recruiting for the Starr Group. I mean, I don't want to diminish what I'm doing, but the response when I'm reaching out to individuals, and be it through social media, be it through our posts, be it through what they know from the individuals of our agency they've met with. I mean, they see us all over the place doing great things with respect to community service. They see our Community Stars donation program. That video that we did on behalf of the Starr Group showing us dressed up as dinosaurs and Santa Claus and you as the Mad Hatter and all these wonderful things. I mean, people just say it looks like you have a ton of fun over there, and I have to imagine you've heard the same thing repeatedly.
Repeatedly. People can get a clear image of what the culture of the Starr Group is because it's out there on social media, on our website, on our Facebook. And I truly believe that like tends to attract like. And because of that, people have come to the Starr Group and they have told us repeatedly that I want to be a part of this culture. It is something that looks fun. You care about your people. They know that wellness is a big part of who we are. Giving back to the community is also huge, and it has attracted a tremendous amount of potential hires.
So we're talking about potential hires and the like, but Mary, from your perspective, how do you identify potential hires who would be a good fit for one's corporate culture?
Well, we actually use a product called the Culture Index Profile, and we have all candidates take this survey as step 1 in the process. And it's not so much about looking for a perfect fit, but it's about finding someone who will enhance the culture at the Starr Group. We want uniqueness, diversity, ingenuity, and creativity. But number one, we do want someone who has a match or is a match to our core values. And we are willing to sacrifice in the short term to protect our long-term brand that we've worked so hard to create.
That sounds great. Let's say you're a C-suite executive listening to this. They hear what you say, but I mean, there's a lot of potential employees out there. Is it possible to be too narrow-minded? Is it possible to be too focused on a position? Basically, I guess what I'm asking is there a downside to being so incredibly selective with who you let into an organization like ours?
I don't know if I would call it a downside. There certainly is no magic looking glass. And I will tell you that we do the very best with what we know and what has worked. Sometimes we find what appears to be a great fit may not work out in the long run for various reasons. Have we passed on individuals who could be a great fit? I'm sure that we have. But again, we use what has worked to the best of our ability. What I would add to this idea of building a culture as a means of attracting and retaining people is that the key decision makers need to be on board and realize that culture needs to be a strategic initiative, right up there with your other initiatives like sales and finance. They need to be on board and they must lead by example to create the intended change. It's extremely important to realize that the investment in culture is not an expense. It is truly an investment, and that this whole process is not a destination. It is a journey, because only a sustained, focused commitment from the leadership team will produce the intended, outstanding, and long-lasting results you are looking for.
Very well said. And regrettably, looking at the time, boy, we are wrapping up here very quick. As we talk about corporate culture, I wish we had 3 weeks to talk about this, because there's so many wonderful things to talk about. And this impacts those organizations that thrive and those organizations that can't survive. And that rhymed, by the way. How about that? So, Mary, unbelievable how fast this time flies. It's incredible how fast time flies when I'm hanging with you. Have you ever noticed that?
I have, Paul Newberger.
Unbelievable. It's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Time flies when you're having fun. So I guess the last question, if you don't mind, is I'd kind of like to end on a bit of a personal note. Obviously, it's the Starr Group, and your last name is Starr. So you've been a part of this agency for a long time now. You've put your blood, sweat, and tears into this organization. You are way too modest to say this yourself, but this agency would not be what it is today without you. I know there's other people, for sure. It's a team effort, but you've been one of our leaders for a while now. At some point, hopefully many, 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 many years down the road, there's going to be a time where you step away, as emotionally difficult as that's going to be for so many of us. What do you want your legacy at the Starr Group to be when that day finally comes?
Well, you love to catch me off guard, but if I think about that, I would truly say that the process of building this culture by design at the Starr Group has, number one, it's been an extremely rewarding process. And it is not about one person. It truly would not happen without the entire team. And I couldn't ask for a better team. So what would make me happiest is if I stepped away and nothing changed, that the culture at the Starr Group was so strong, it's part of our DNA, that things would just continue. To me, that would be the most incredible legacy that I could ask for.
Well, amen to that. And it's just been a blessing to serve alongside you and learn as much as I have over the past couple of years. I would not be who I am to some degree without your influence. And
well, I can say
that.
The same thing. Thank you very much, Paul.
Absolutely. So if you want any additional information on corporate culture, we are literally just scratching the surface on this very deep, important topic. Mary is never too busy to talk about her passion.
Not at all.
So please feel free to email her, call her. I know she'd love to share some tips of the trade with you. But as for me, let's just wrap up by once again thanking you very much for listening to our podcast, Beyond the Known, with me, Paul M. Newberger. If you like our show and want to learn more about us, please feel free to check us out at stargroup.com/podcast.